Okay, so you're just going to want to press down just to get a little bit of adherence there on your bottom, and then you're going to bring that strip tight into that guide so that you have even width channels. You want to be able to get your chipboard pages snugly, but the ability to actually have them move through the channel like I am showing here. Got a little crazy with my cutting there. So that is what you want to do, and then again, it's always a good idea to take your bone folder and just burnish that down a little bit more. So let's do the rest, and I might not get all the way to the back of the box. Let me see if I can. A box bottom. All right, butting that up, laying my strip down, making sure your strip is to the edge of each side of the bottom of your box, and then bring that strip to your guide, and then slide that guide down, and again you're pressing the strip up against the guide so that you get a good distance that's equal all the way down your channel. Once you feel comfortable with that, you're going to burnish, and let's do it again. I thought about speeding up this section of the video, but sometimes it helps if you're doing this for the first time to see it multiple times before you get the hang of it and feel comfortable that you know. So you can speed it up if you want, but we're just going to keep going here and laying down my strip, taking my guide, butting up that strip to the guide, it is helpful to have a guide made so that you remain consistent with your channels that you're making sure that's held down. And you know, putting the box together is the longest part of this entire project, but the reason why you want to take time in putting it together is to ensure that your box is square, and that your pages or your mini album, if you decide to make that, is sitting really nicely in your box. Oops, wrong. Let's go ahead and let's do this last one. Okay, one more time, and then we'll move on to the next step. Lining up that 12 inches on each side, pressing down, using the guide to help you keep a good width even throughout the bottom of your box. All right, so it looks like I could probably get a couple more in there. I won't do it on the video. You've seen it enough. You could play it back. One of the things I wanted to say is if you go over a little bit on your edges here, you could do one of two things. I just take my when it's dry, obviously, I just take my emery board. This is actually an emery board that I use, and I run that over when the strips are dry, just to even them out, to make sure you're flush. You want to be flush on that bottom of the box. This is another good way of doing it. So flush to the bottom of the box. Okay, all right, so let's set that aside, and the next thing we're going to do is trim out our 2 3/4 by 5 1/2 inch pieces. So I use my paper trimmer to trim my chipboard. And what I do is I just take an old blade and I don't toss it out. I mark it with the CB for chipboard, and I use that to cut my chipboard. And the reason why I like to do that is I get straight line, a straight cut, and my measurements turn out equal. And it's worked for me over and over again. So again, we took our 2 3/4 by 5.5. We marked a 3.5 inch line there. You want to take your trimmer, and at an angle you want to line up the tip of that mark to the tip of your chipboard. There's the 3.5 inch mark, and here is the tip of my chipboard. So I'm going to run that through a couple of times, and then let's go ahead and do the other one. I'm lining that up with the 3.5 inch mark we made to the tip of my chipboard for my angle. I use 3.5. You can choose to use a deeper slope if you want to. And then I just take my straight edge knife and I trim away that triangular piece that's left over. Just want to do a couple of passes until you feel the chipboard is released. And there you get really sharp, nice cuts using your paper trimmer. It works for me. All right, so these are ready to go. So let's go ahead and assemble. So I'm going to take my 3.5 by 12 inch piece of chipboard, and somewhere I have some pre-cut strips of that mailing tape. And let's do the long side. So I just took and measured out 12 inches of the tape and I cut it in strips. I'm going to fold it in half. Shiny side, or the glued side, the gum side to each other. And this is for the outside of the box. We're going to tape the inside of the box as well, because that adds more stability to your box. I'm gonna burnish it there with my bone folder, and off camera I am going to give it a good wet, not too much. And then I'm going to take my piece and I'm gonna butt up the edge of the chipboard to the edge where that folded line is. Okay. Then I'm going to take the bottom of my box. Now these are going to flip this way. Remember we added the tape before we put our strips down. So then you want to fold those up because that's going to be the inside of your box, and then you want to lay down your bottom, lining it up with the edges here as close as possible. And then you want to fold up the 3.5 by 12 inch side, and then burnish both sides really well. It's important to note, I'm using the outside edge of the chipboard. If you lay your chipboard on the top edge, you need to make the adjustments to account for where you lay your strips on the bottom of the box, and the entire box has to be put together that way. So whether you lay your chipboard on the top or on the side of your chipboard pieces, you need to be consistent all the way around. So now let's go ahead and add the 5.5 by 12 inch piece. And again, I have a pre-cut strip here. I'm going to take that strip and on the gummed side, fold it inside itself in half. Go ahead and burnish. And then wet it. And then we're going to lay down our chipboard up against that fold line. And then we're going to take the other side of our bottom and we're going to lay that out close to the edges, making sure that we are lined up with our 12-inch pieces. We're going to bring it up and then we're going to turn it over, and then we're going to use our bone folder to smooth everything out. Okay, so starting to come to shape. That's our back right here. This is our front. Now let's apply the sides. So again, we want, yeah, I do have 3.5, so I'm gonna fold this, burnish it, add some water. I'm going to apply it, burnish it, and then I'm gonna lay it down, line it up, making sure, yep, really good. And then I'm gonna burnish that nicely, okay? Let's do this side. So one of the things when I was making this box that I made the mistake over and over again, you got opposite sides, so you want to make sure you get the right sides lined up for the other side of your box. I put the tape on the other side before. Spray with water. Okay, we're gonna lay this down close to that fold line. We're gonna lay this down, lining up your side, making sure that you're on the outside there. And then you want to flip it over and you want to press down with your bone folder. Okay, so now it's time to put the box together this way. So I do believe I have some pre-cut, yep, 5.5. So this is a 5.5 strip, 5.5 inch strip of the tape. Fold it in half. Wet it. I'm going to apply that on there. Burnish that a little bit. Now what you want to do is this tape that we have here, you want to fold that towards the inside of the box. We're going to adhere that in just a little bit. So you want to butt that up really nice. So you have a nice edge. The other good thing about this tape is you have a bit of a wiggle room